So select the light and press X to delete it. Now for the default cube, select it and rename it to bread and press S to scale it down, and press S and Y to scale it on a Y axis. Now press S and Z to scale down it. Press 1 to switch to front view. Now use the move tool to move it up. Reduce the thickness a little bit more. Now press tab to switch to edit mode. Now press 2 or switch to add selection mode from here, and press Alt Z to enable the X-ray mode. Now shift select all the edges on the side. Now press 7 to switch to top view and press Ctrl B to apply bevel. Now scroll the mouse wheels to increase the segment to 3. Now press 7 and switch to top view and press 1 to switch to vertex selection mode. Make sure the X-ray mode is enabled, and then select these two vertices in the middle. So make sure the X-ray mode is enabled, so you are selecting both the vertices from the front and the behind, and select the 4 vertices in the middle and press S and X to scale it on a x-axis. Select all these 6 vertices, leave the top one and use the move tool to move it downward. Now disable the X-ray mode. Now back to object mode and apply the subdivision surface modifier, or so now apply the subdivision surface modifier and increase the levels to 2. You can also use the shortcut keys, so press tab and press Ctrl+2 or 3 to apply the subdivision. Now back to edit mode. To fix its shape, press Ctrl R to add more loop cut and move the loop upward and add one more loop cut and move it downward. Alt select the bottom loop, press I to insert it just a little bit. Now Alt select the upper loop and press I to insert it a little bit and insert it one more time. This time use move tool to move it downward and scale it a little bit. Now Alt select the bottom loop and Alt shift to select all the loops in this side, and now go to object data property here and add one more vertex group, rename it to bread. So we can use this vertex group while applying the materials, different materials to different vertex group, and press the assign to assign it. And you can also check if it's selected or not. If you select it, you can see the vertex group are selected. Now back to object mode. While selecting it, right click and apply shade smooth and then press H to hide it. Now for the avocado, press Shift A and add a circle. Reduce the vertices to 10. Scale it down. Rename it to Avo, short for avocado. And then back to edit mode. Now press 7 to switch to top view. Now select all the vertices in the side and press X to delete it. Now for these vertices, press E and X to extrude it on a x-axis and scale it down a little bit and use the move tool, scale it a little bit and move it in a x-axis. Now extrude it one more time on x-axis. Now press S to scale it down and move it on a x-axis. Now press A and select everything and extrude it on a z-axis. Now back to object mode and press Ctrl 2 to apply subdivision. For some reason the shortcut doesn't work on the edit mode. Instead it switches to edge selection mode, so keep in mind while using the shortcut. So to fix its shape, we're going to add more loops. Press Ctrl R and add the loop and add another loop and move it downward. Press Ctrl Z and enable the X-ray mode. Go to top view and 3 to switch to face selection mode. Now select the faces in the side of the avocado. So in face selection mode, every faces has this little dot in the center. So unless you are selecting the dot, it won't select the face. So make sure you are selecting the dot, and since you are in X-ray mode, you will be selecting the faces from the behind which are hidden. Shift select every faces on the side and go to object data property, click plus, rename it to avo and press assign. Now disable the X-ray mode and back to object mode. Move it up on a z-axis and press Alt H to unhide the bread that we hid earlier. Now we are going to place the avocado on the bread. For that, select it, use the transform tool and the blue ring to rotate it on a z-axis, and use the arrows to place it on the bread. We scale it down. While selecting it, right click and apply shade smooth. Now to duplicate it, so now we are going to duplicate it. So to do that, instead of Shift D, we are going to use the Alt D to create linked duplicates, so it will be easier to apply the materials. Now move it backward, press Alt D to duplicate and move it. So you can scale them, it won't affect the other duplicates. Maybe rotate a little bit, Shift select multiple and then press Alt D to duplicate them. And now that it's done, press Shift A and add a circle and reduce the vertices to 14 for the egg, and then rename it to egg W for egg white. Now scale it down, maybe move it to the side so it's easier to edit it. Now switch to edit mode and scale it down, press 1 to switch to vertex selection mode. Now transform its shape to make it look like oval. Now press A to select all the vertices and go to faces and select the grid fill. Now down here change the span to 4. Now press A and select everything and press C to extrude it on a z-axis and scale it down a little bit. Now for the side, press Ctrl R and add 2 loops by scrolling the mouse wheel, and while the loop is selected, go to object data property and add a new material, rename it to egg white edge. Now back to object mode and press Ctrl 2 to apply subdivision surface modifier. So it's looking too blocky. Go back to object mode, press 1 and enable the X-ray mode. Select the bottom loop and scale it down and move it up. Now do the same thing with the upper one. Select all the vertices and move them down. Now disable the X-ray mode and back to object mode. Now the egg white is done. Let's start making the egg yolk. Press Shift A and add a UV sphere. Reduce the segments to 16 and the rings to 10. Move it up and scale it down. Now back to edit mode. Enable the X-ray mode and select half the vertices in the bottom and press X to delete it. Now Alt select the bottom loop and press F to fill it. Now scale it down a little bit. Now while selecting it, press Ctrl 2 and apply shade smooth and scale it down and place it on the egg white. Now while selecting both of it, I'm going to move it on top of our bread. So use the transform tool to move it. I'm going to fix its position. So while selecting the egg white, go back to edit mode. Now select this proportional editing here and change it to connected only. So while left clicking, scroll your mouse wheel to increase or decrease the area of the effect. And let's fix this. Now for the vertices for this side, move them down for this side too. Now that it's ready, press A and select everything. Press 7 and switch to top view. Now press Alt D to create linked duplicates. I'm going to place it on the side here, maybe rotate a little bit. Now press A once again and move it to the center and select everything and move a little bit up so we can add a plate here. So for the plate, press Shift A and add a circle, and I'm leaving it to 14, and then back to edit mode, press F to fill it, and then go to edge and select extrude edges, press Z to lock it in a Z axis, move it up a little bit, then extrude it one more time on the Z axis and then scale it. You can disable the proportional editing, we don't need it anymore. Back to object mode, first Ctrl 2 to apply subdivision and then add a solidify modifier and increase the thickness to maybe 0.08 and then apply it. Now press A and shift select the plate to deselect it. Now move it down and place it on the plate. So the plate is looking too big. I'm going to decrease the size so it looks better. Now right click and apply shade smooth. Now that everything is ready, we are going to start applying the materials. Now switch to viewport shading from here. So now let's add a plane for the background. Scale it. Now go to viewport shading. I'm going to use this color palette. You can either download it from the link given in the description or you can just take a screenshot of it. Now just for the egg yolk, we are going to apply a gradient material. So add new material and switch to shader editor, and from here change the principal BSDF to tone BSDF. Now press Shift A and search gradient texture, Shift A color ramp, and while selecting the gradient texture, press Ctrl T to add a texture coordinate. So to make sure it works, make sure the node wrangler add-on is enabled. So to enable it, go to edit, preferences, add-on, search node wrangler and enable it. So select the color to vector and color to color. Now for the color, select the white one and use the eyedropper to select the first color in the eyedropper, and for the second one select the same color but this time change the color to bright dark orange and put the slider closer to each other. So the direction of the gradient is not that we desire, we want it like this way horizontally. So for that we are going to rotate it. So to look for which direction you would like to rotate, use the ring in the transform tool. So for me, I need to rotate it 90 degree in y axis, so it might be different on you, so you can look for that. So I'm going to change the y-axis to 90, and now we can adjust the slider. Now it's looking, so since we have created the linked duplicate using the Alt D, so we only need to apply the material only on one object. Now for the egg white, I'm going to add the material, change this to tone BSDF, and I'm changing to egg W for egg white. And for the color, I'm just changing the value of it to a gray color to add a new color. From the arrow here, select the egg white, and so this number here is showing how many object it's applied. So if I change values in this one, it will automatically change in this also. So if I select this, it will make it a separate material. So do the same thing, and for this material use the eyedropper, the third color in the second row, and then while selecting the egg white, go to edit mode and to the object data property where we have made a vertex group. So for me, I forgot to assign the vertices, the vertex group, so assign here. Now go to materials property and select assign, and now the color is applied. Now back to object mode and select the avocado. Now add a new material, change the principal BSDF to tone BSDF. Now for the color, use the eyedropper and select the first color in the select the second color in the first row. Now add a new material, and then first and rename it to avo 1, short for avocado 1, and select plus, and select the avo 1 from the list. And then so this number here, it's showing how many, press the 2 here, and now it will be separated. So let's rename it to avo 2. Now for the color, use the eyedropper and select the third color in the first row, and press tab, switch to edit mode, and go to object selection mode and press select. Then it will select the vertex group. Now back to materials property and press assign. Now the color has applied. Now back to object mode and select the bread, add new material and select the avo 1, separate it. Now rename it to bread, and then use the eyedropper and select the first color in the second row. Now add one more material, select the bread and separate it, and then apply the second color in the second row. Now back to edit mode and go to object data property, select the vertices, back to materials property and press assign. Back to object mode. For the plate, I have applied the same color as the egg white, and now for the plane, I'm going to add a new material, select the avo 1, separate it, and for the color, select the fourth color in the first row. Now go to viewport shading. I'm going to hide the color palette and press shift A and add a sun. Go to object data property, change its value to 1.5 and use grab tool to move it up on the z-axis. Now press shift A, add a aerial light and use grab tool to move it on a z-axis. Increase its value to 200 and scale it. From here, left click and drag to select all the three values and press it to scale it. Go to word properties and for the background color, select the fourth color in the second row, and then go to render properties and enable ambient occlusion, and for this shadow, disable the soft shadow, and in the bottom, in the color management, change the filmic to standard, and for the look, change it to medium low contrast. Now there are two shadow, one is coming from the plane and another is from the sun. So select the sun, go to object data property and disable the shadow. So now it's fixed, and you can see the shadows are all pixelated. So to fix it, select the light the plane, and first enable the contact shadow, and for the clip start increase it something like for me it's 7.35 and it's fixed. So now for the black pepper, press shift A and add a grease pencil blank, and from object data property rename it to black pepper. Well, we will be only using one layer, so it's not necessary, but anyways, go to draw mode and change the strength to 1 and change this to origin to surface. Now the offset value, it determines the place of the stroke on how far it is from the surface. So change it to 0.01. It worked for me, but check it for yourself what's working for you. So reduce the radius to 10 and then go to top view. Now use the left click to create tiny dots. Maybe change the size to create some variety. So now that's it's ready. Press Ctrl Alt plus 0 to switch to camera view. Make sure you have camera, or you can press shift A and add one. Press N and go to view and enable camera to view to lock the camera. Set your image and go to render and render image, and your bread avocado omelette is ready. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like and comment. So see you guys in the next tutorial.